Okay, I think we were going to spend a lot of time on blues and rhythm changes and that kind of stuff today. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
So let's go to the blues. There's a tune by Sonny Rollins called Sunny Moon for Two. Did we do this? Seems like we did.
Yes, yeah, we did.
Okay. And four times through that, and you've got the melody, right?
Uh-huh.
And I think I mentioned this already that that's a scale. That's actually a minor pentatonic scale.
Uh-huh.
We could play it like a scale. And I think we talked about this before. I think where I give the kids a call and response kind of thing. And I think I did it with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember.
Just using the notes out of that scale, and you can't play a wrong note. So this is kind of a good way to start with the kids to get them playing learn that tune by ear. Then they get the minor pentatonic scale sound going, and then they can blanket everything with that. They don't have to know what the blues progression is or anything.
Yeah.
But then I think we got to take it to the next step. Well, also, by the way, besides the minor pentatonic, then I would add the flat five so that you got that blues note, blues scale. I would do that too, and that can blanket everything. You don't have, well, if you're using the blues scale or the pentatonic scale, you don't change when the chords change.
Right.
Blanket everything with the same thing. It's based on a horizontal consideration, namely in this case the key of the piece, not vertical considerations when the chords are moving along in the vertical change. Right?
Yeah.
But now we need to get to that. So that would be where I want to take the kids next.
Hmm.
And to get that, we were doing that in F, so we'll stay in F. In other words, we're in concert F, so on the alto we're playing in D, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So the only accidental I have in D is, of course, the F sharp because it's dominant. The C's
Uh-huh.
natural.
Yeah.
The seven's natural. So I only have the F sharp. Now, what happens when I go to G7? Do any of the notes have to change? I'm going to G dominant 7.
G dominant seven. Uh, the F should be natural.
Yeah. So when I'm on the D7, I can play F sharp. When I'm on the G7, I can't. I got to play F natural.
Right.
Now, do you know how the blues progression goes? One chord to the four chord, two measures to the one
One
chord,
chord to the 5/4.
four,
Yeah.
and then 4 4 1 1. It's 12 bars altogether. The 5 4 1 comes at the end. So
Uh,
it
okay.
runs this way: 1 4 1 1 again, 4 4 1 1 5 4 1 1 top. There's my 12 bars.
Yeah.
So at the very simplest level, I would do this. There's my 12 bars in whole notes.
You were just playing the roots, right, of those chords.
I wasn't playing the roots. I
No,
was
you.
playing the notes that have to change,
Oh, okay. So the guide tones.
the guide tones.
Okay.
So I was playing F sharp, then I played F natural, back to F sharp. Then when it goes to the four chord again, back to F natural, goes back to the one chord, so back to F sharp. Then I went to A7. Well, what's different on A7 that we haven't been able to use yet that says, hey, I changed chords?
Everything's natural, right? No, something.
On an A dominant 7,
Oh, the C sharp.
C sharp.
Yeah, C
That's
sharp.
what I did. Then I went back to the F natural for the four chord, then back to the F sharp for the one chord. So So these are the notes that have to change.
Right.
Now, if I play around and you hear just those notes, I mean, you'll hear those notes are in there. I'm putting substitutions in. I'm trying to keep this simple. We're keeping the simple version. Sorry, I went more complex. Now, those were notes that are all based around those guide tones that I played as whole notes the first time.
Okay. Cool.
Right? And that's really what it is it's like these are now like, I think we used this image last week, but these are like the dots that you have to connect. And it's like, how many ways can you draw pictures through these dots? How many different pictures can you draw through these dots?
Yeah.
You can draw a lot of different pictures through the dots. Those dots are still there. But the first thing is we got to learn the dots.
Yeah.
So let's do this. We'll do it as whole notes with your horn.
Yeah. Remind me of the progression again. So I mean, we're starting on 1, and that's for 1 bar or 2 bars.
Yeah, I mean the very simplest version would go 4 bars of the 1, but it's much more normal to play this 4 chord on the second bar. So we just go 1 to 4 back to 1.
1 1. Okay. Yeah, and that's I think I often heard it with just the 4 bars at the beginning being 1.
Yeah, that is like the super primitive example. I hardly ever start back that far.
I actually like the idea of having the 4 in that second bar because it just
it kind of helps to have something to change to there.
Yeah.
All right, let's just try it. We're doing it in whole notes. All right, 2, 1, 2, 3. So when it goes to the 5 chord, C sharp,
Yeah.
goes to the 4 chord, F natural, back to the D7, F sharp. I think you were on it until then.
Yeah, and that's where I went.
Yeah, okay. So let's just play that part. We're on the A7 5 chord. 2, ready. Okay. Now, here's what I do with the kids. That's the basic framework. That's what I would call the framework of the tune. It's the framework of the pitches that have to change for you to be able to hear the chord progression.
Yeah.
All right, but let's make it more interesting. Let's flesh it out and make it a little more interesting. So I'm going to do this. This makes it a little more easy to practice.
Yeah, because there's a little bit more guys.
The notes are still in there, but so you could easily in your warm up have your whole band doing this.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, here we go. We'll do it with the. Now you're starting on D. You go D, E, F sharp, D, E, F natural.
The one I missed was when you went to the 5.
So then C sharp, D, E.
D, E. Okay, that makes sense.
And then we're on the 4 chord. D, E, F natural, D, E, F sharp.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's try it. 1, 2, ready. not hearing you super well over myself, but did you get through it okay?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
Good.
I was wondering if that was because I'm trying to play with you, and so I have no idea
I
how
know.
to get speed up for you.
And I don't usually do this on Zoom because it's weird with the delay and everything, but we're just being loose about it. It's okay.
Right.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, it was working. My F natural just really doesn't want to sound today, but
yeah, right.
But I'm getting it, and I love the idea of doing that as a warm up with the band, and going through different keys.
Yeah. And you know what? You could have part of the band going, or you can have the whole band doing that, and then one at a time. You got somebody soloing over that, but the band's still going. And the soloist touches into those notes that the band's playing. So
yeah,
they have some freedom to play around it more.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
Now, you know that with most chords, dominant chords especially, we've got 2 levels of things that can move. Right now, we're just using the first level, one level. We're going F sharp to F to F sharp to F sharp to F natural. But we also have C to B when we're going from a D7 to a G7.
Because of the fourth. Is that why? That works?
Yeah. So in other words, we were using the 3, has to go to 7, goes back to 3, has to go down to 7. But it could be the 7 has to go to 3, has to, in other words, we could reverse that so that we can start in either the 3 or the 7.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go that radical, but what I think we should do is use the other level on measure 4. So it goes like this now.
Okay.
Now that wants to go down to a half step to resolve to the 4 chord. Then I'm going to go right back to the F, back to the other level. So I've got the F sharp to F natural level, and I've got the C to B level also.
Okay, yeah.
That makes sense?
I think so. So on the 4th measure, you're going D, C natural, B.
I'm actually going C, C sharp, C natural.
Oh, okay.
Last time I think we mentioned bebop scale. That's actually bebop scale. And I try to build a little bebop scale in everywhere I can so the kids get it in their ears. So I'm just putting, it's bebop, because what I really want is the C to go down to the B. But to get to the C, I'm going, there's the C. I went chromatically. Got to go down to there now, right? So I'm just going. We were going. I'm just doing exactly that, except I start on B. We still just did the same thing. Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So now my framework sounds like this. Yeah, not.
Okay.
Anyway, so I put that little twist in there.
Yeah,
So we have
I like that. I better write that down so I don't forget that.
Yeah. Now the challenge is, can I kind of keep? And what I do, I ask the students to practice that until they're sick of it, so they can hardly stand to play it again. Because what's that doing is building the harmonic rhythm into the soul a little bit,
Yeah, yep, that makes sense.
And then it's like. and I get more and more adventurous as I go along. But you heard me stay really close to when I started out.
Yeah.
Just a little tiny aberration.
Yeah. And I think if they when students play it long enough that they get bored with it, then they want to improvise.
Yes, yes.
It's not that they're timid about it, and it's like, I want to do something else. Please.
It's like, what else can I do with this? This sucks. Yeah. Now, no matter how advanced I get on this, really. There's still, those notes are still in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And because those notes are in there, you're hearing the blues progression with no backing track.
Right.
Yeah. That, of course, is always the acid test. If you're playing changes, I should be able to hear the tune.
Yeah.
With no backing track and no reference to a melody or anything.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's good.
And so this is how I would take the next step into the blues. Sometimes people get really drugged with the blues scale. It's like, oh man, if I ever hear another blues scale. It's common to hear that at the end of a day of adjudication.
Yeah.
If I ever hear another blues scale. To the point that I had a student from California. He was like one of the top dog kids coming out, and I managed to get him at BYU coming out of California that year. Kevin Miller. And he won the second tenor chair in synthesis his first semester as a freshman. I gave him a solo on this particular tune. He came in and wanted a little help with the solo, and I said, great. I said, right here, you can actually use a little bit of the blues scale. Oh, no, I can't use blues scale. Why not? Oh, they told us we can't use the blues scale. We'd be disqualified if we ever used the blues scale. You can't use the blues scale. See, they'd really indoctrinated these kids in California. No, you don't use the blues scale. And it's like, I said, okay, I understand where that's coming from. But let me tell you that it's not the truth. Of course you can use the blues scale. You just don't want to use it as your only way of playing. You don't want it to be a cop-out because you don't know what else to do. Instead, you want it to be something that gives you some soul in your playing. You take all the blues scale out of it, it's like devoid of soul, Yeah. I had to work with him to convince him that, no, really, it's okay if you use the blues scale here for a minute. It's a good color right here.
I thought it was wrong.
But you know how Charlie Parker played, actually, and he was like from the Kansas City, the seat of the blues, they called it. Mm-hmm. And all the great jazz innovators were blues players at heart. And he would actually be playing the changes like crazy, and then he'd play a blues scale. I put this in the book, his solo on Opera Va, which is a blues, and he's playing, bebop-ish like I was a minute ago, where you're really like hitting all the changes. And then all of a sudden he goes, and all of a sudden it's like a heavy blues scale thing.
Yeah.
But then that wasn't quite the lick, but then it's right back to playing the changes again. And so that would be my third approach. My first approach is, okay, let's get the kids blanketing with the minor pentatonic scale. Now let's get them blanketing with the blues scale. And see, a lot of people have a problem with that because, man, the kids get stuck there. Then all they can do is the blues scale. I say, you know what? If that's all they can do, it's your fault, not theirs. You need to teach them what to do next, So this is what we do next. We learn to play the changes, and we learn how to play right in those changes. And by the way, I've got a thing in the book too about putting the bebop scale over those changes. So we're really based on, nailing the changes of every chord. But then the third level of this is, okay, I'm going to basically play the changes, but now and then I'm going to throw in something from the blues scale, the minor pentatonic.
Okay.
And because I've played that framework to death, I know where I am. Even if I depart for a minute and play the blues scale, I'm not going to be lost. I know where to get back in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that would be that would be the third level, as being able to combine the two approaches a little bit. So you got the horizontal approach, then you got the vertical approach, and then you got the vertical approach with a little horizontal mixed in here and there. You understand how I'm using those terms, horizontal and vertical?
Yeah.
And you can get the kids doing some pretty good things on the blues I think you could see how you could gradually, over a period of 2 or 3 weeks in the warm-up period, get the kids really into the blues, and you got everybody playing on the blues.
Yeah. I can see that. And in the past, I've done a little bit of blues, but it's kind of been like I don't know what to do next kind of thing. It's kind of be like, here's a little bit, and then try and improvise, and then it's just jumping in too deep without any of the structure and understanding of what's really being asked.
Right. And ultimately, the kids do need to know the chord structure. They need to understand how blues works.
Yeah.
There are a couple of other substitutions that happen very commonly. I've actually given you one of the substitutions already, which is playing that 4 chord on the second measure. Mm-hmm. That's actually a substitute. The very most basic blues would go 1, 1, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, 5, 5, 1, 1. Wouldn't even go to 4. It'd be like 5, 5, 1, 1. The next level would be 5, 4, 1, 1, which is what we've been doing. And then the next thing would be to put the 4 on the second measure. 1, 4, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, 5, 4, 1, 1. That's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
But now, the blues is very versatile structure, and it can lend itself to a lot of substitutions. And when I'm working with my college students or my better high school students, I usually take the substitutions for the progression a little bit further, and I'll do this. I'll go 1, 4, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 6. Okay. Instead of 2 measures of 1, we'll do 6 on the second measure of the 1. And then if I do 6, then I don't want to go 5, 4 after that, 6, 5, 4. I'll do 6, and then I'll do 2, 5. Instead of 5, 4, I'll do 2, 5.
Okay. 2, 5, 1, 1.
1. Yeah. So it goes 1, 4, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. And in the last 2 measures, we would typically do what we call a turnaround. A turnaround is a little progression that usually happens in the last 2 measures of the tune, sometimes only the last measure, but usually the last 2 measures of the tune. It's a little progression that takes you from D back to D. In other words, you're not going anywhere, but you're creating a little motion in the meantime.
Yeah, okay.
So now if I did that framework, it would sound like this. So I put the framework, I put the turnaround on the end, and I went 6, 2, 5. So it's slightly different. It's basically the same thing, but it's got a slight different thing. Uh-huh. In that case, I got to do slightly different thing to the framework. So I'll go 1 chord. When I go to the 6th chord, I'm going to go to the 3rd of it. And the 6th chord is going to be dominant flat 9, by the way. I'm going to make it dominant with a flat 9. So I'm playing, since we're in the key of D, my 6th chord is going to be B dominant 7. So I'm going to go into D sharp, which is my major 3rd, but then I'm playing C natural, which is my flat 9, down to B. That's how I'm doing that framework. And then for the 2-5, you could do any basic 2-5 pattern. So I just did a 2-5 pattern. I could do. I could go. I could play any 2-5 pattern there.
Yeah.
It's just 2-5. And what's the 2-5 pattern based on? The 7 going to the 3, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
7 to 3, 7 to 3. Sixth chord. 2-5. Darn it. And so now I'm playing 1-6-2-5. So I'm going. When I do that substitution, I'm going where I got 1-4-1-1, 4-4, 1-6-2-5, 1-6-2-5. I'm actually just doing 1-6-2-5 twice in a row. But the second time it's twice as fast. In other words, my turnaround is 1-6-2-5.
1-6-2-5. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
But it's going every 2 counts instead of every 4 counts.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get to the 1 chord after the 4 chord is 1, 6, 2, 5, turn around. 1, 6, 2, 5, bam, we're at the top.
Okay.
So, if you get the kids really eating the rest of that, sometimes it's kind of nice to, okay, now let's add a couple of more little things here that make it even cooler.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You keep them growing. Keep them growing, yeah. And I mean, you might stretch that across a lot of the school year, but you could still get a lot done on it,
Mm-hmm.
amidst doing other things, of course. Yeah.
That's how teaching is.
And as far as the bebop scale, I have the kids practice this with it. So it takes 2 measures to go. So if I only have 1 measure, out of time, be on to the next thing. And that's not all bad either, because that starts to build that bebop scale. Just using the blues framework, you could expand it to, and I do this in the book too, so you can find that in the book. It's in there.
Yeah, and because you were doing the bebop scale, and then you were adding some of those things we talked about when we were talking about the bebop scale.
Yeah, I didn't add any of those enclosures or anything we were talking about last. A little ending on it. That little ending. I have the kids practice that ending as part of the basic scale in the first place. And I did not bring that up with you last week, but. So there's my 8, 7, flat 7, then 9, 6, 5.
Okay.
That's the little ending, little punctuation that I'm using.
8, 7, flat 7, 6.
Yeah, so 8, 7, flat 7. In other words, the bebop scale thing right there. 8, 7,
right.
7, 9, 6, 5.
9, 6, 5.
9, of course, is the same as 2.
Right. Yeah.
Just try playing that little thing so you feel it.
No, 9.
Then up to E. B. There it is, B-A. There you go. Uh-huh. It's okay. And then I'll sometimes vary that by going. Now I just went up after I did 8, 7, flat 7, 9, 6, 5. Then I did 8, flat 7 again. It's just an ending. After a while, you could be doing things like this. So you're like. Yeah, I did not do what I was trying to. I wanted to do the same enclosure I showed you last time, and I didn't do it. So I could do that in there, like. Now I did some of the enclosure stuff that we did last time. So that could be the next step of using the bebop scale. So when we're playing the changes, we're actually changing the scale basis, the key signature basis, and everything as the chords change. If you're playing horizontally, then you don't do that. You always play just either the minor pentatonic scale or the blues scale that's based on the key of the piece. You don't change it. You wouldn't go D blues scale, G blues scale, D blues scale.
Right. Yeah.
It's just the D blues scale blankets everything. Yeah. Is that making sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, now this would be I would do this and I'd probably put it in several keys. Okay, now we did it in F, guys. Let's do it in B flat today. Put it in B flat. Let's put it in C. In other words, this is a really quick way to put it in other keys, is to have this framework thing.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, you should be able to play the blues in whatever key might be called. I don't think you've probably heard this before, but Charlie Parker, when he was asked how he learned to play, he said, well, first I learned to play the blues in all 12 keys. Then I learned how to play rhythm changes in all 12 keys. And then I learned how to play Cherokee in all 12 keys. He says, that took me about 2 years, but after that I could play anything. And so I think it really is good to have the kids expand into other keys on the blues. And I'll do the same thing with rhythm changes. I've got a kid that's a sophomore right now that's been working on rhythm changes, and he's sounding pretty dang good on it. Kid's very bright. He's playing in the super band actually. But I'm like, okay. He's at Harriman High School. Very bright light over there. I don't think they have too many other kids that are like him, okay, I want you to have this in 3 other keys next week. I think you have to push for more. And there's something that happens inside a person when you start playing the same material in several different keys. It really changes the way you hear and see things, the way you see things in your head, the way you feel things, the way you view it. It changes. So anyway.